The rain was more than just weather that night. It was a curtain, thick and heavy, sealing the world in cold and darkness. It hammered the cracked asphalt, filled the potholes until they became murky mirrors, and streamed down the jagged walls of the abandoned lot. The air smelled of rust, oil, and wet earth, the scent of a place long forgotten. Somewhere deep within that lot, tucked beneath the skeletal remains of a rusted trailer, a sound slipped through the storm. It was faint, almost lost in the drumbeat of rain. A whimper, then another. Under the trailer's bent frame, where shadows swelled and pooled, a shape emerged, small, thin, soaked to the skin. She was a dog, though her coat was so matted and filthy that only the curve of her ears and the slope of her muzzle gave her away. Her ribs pressed sharply against her fur, every breath a visible effort. She stood, legs trembling, over a heap of fragile, wriggling bodies, 4 newborn puppies. They squeaked and squirmed blindly, pressing into her belly for warmth, their tiny bodies no match for the icy rain seeping in through the gaps above. But the mother's eyes, they told another story. They were not wild with fear, nor dulled by exhaustion. They were fixed, locked on something far away, somewhere just beyond the veil of rain. Her gaze was steady, unblinking, her body angled protectively between that unseen threat and her pups. Every few seconds, she would lower her head and nudge each puppy closer together, pressing them deeper into the curve of her body. Then she would look back toward the darkness, ears pricked, muscles tense. She knew she couldn't move them, not now, not in the cold, not in this storm. And so she stayed. The minutes stretched into hours. The rainwater pooled around her paws, and her fur clung to her skin like ice. Hunger gnawed at her belly, but she did not leave. Fatigue pulled at her eyelids, but she did not sleep. Her instincts screamed to run, to flee the danger she sensed, but she stood her ground. Somewhere in the distance, a car engine hummed, growing louder and fading again. The world beyond this lot might as well have been another planet. For her, it was only here, only now, only them. The threat drew closer. She could smell it now. The scent was sharp, musky, predatory. Her heart quickened, and she shifted her weight forward, her body a barrier. She didn't know when help would come. She didn't even know if help existed. But she knew one thing. If anything wanted her puppies, it would have to go through her first. And as the rain fell harder, the silent plea in her eyes wasn't for herself, it was for them. The storm had driven most people indoors that night. Streetlights flickered, casting pale cones of light onto the slick road, and the wind carried the kind of chill that made even the hardiest souls quicken their steps. But Raoul wasn't supposed to be here at all. He was a delivery driver working the late shift, following a GPS route through a part of town he didn't know well. Somewhere between an unmarked intersection and a flooded back road, the soft blue line on his phone rerouted him down a narrow lane lined with half-collapsed fences and overgrown weeds. Raoul squinted through the blurry windshield, the wipers squeaking at full speed. That's when he saw it. At first, it was just movement, something shifting under the hulking shadow of a derelict trailer parked in a weed-choked lot. In the half-light, it looked like trash fluttering in the wind. But then 2 eyes, amber, sharp, locked on him. They didn't blink, didn't dart away. They stared right through the rain, through the glass, into him. Raoul eased his foot off the gas, the delivery timer on his phone forgotten. He pulled to the side of the road, the tire splashing into a shallow puddle. He lowered the window just an inch. The smell of wet asphalt and rust filled his cab. "Hey, girl," he called softly, voice almost lost to the rain. No response. But then came the sound. It was soft, high-pitched a whimper, then another, more than one. Raoul's chest tightened. He knew that sound. Puppies. He reached over to the passenger seat and grabbed his phone, hitting record. The image on the screen trembled as he zoomed in, trying to see beneath the trailer. There, a tangle of tiny bodies pressed against the thin frame of the mother dog. Their movements were jerky, uncoordinated, newborns. She didn't move toward him. She didn't move at all. But her body shifted slightly, just enough to shield the pups from his view, her eyes never leaving his face. Raoul swallowed hard. He'd seen strays before, lots of them, but something about this one was different. She wasn't afraid of him, but she wasn't trusting either. She was assessing, deciding if he was another threat. He thought about getting out, approaching slowly. But something in those amber eyes told him it was the wrong move. She was on edge, and one wrong step could send her bolting, leaving those puppies unprotected in the cold. So he stayed put. Raoul opened a rescue app he'd downloaded months ago after finding an injured cat. He tapped the emergency number, explaining what he saw: a stray mother, newborn pups, heavy rain, and what he thought might be an injury to her back leg. The woman on the line told him the storm had slowed calls, and the team was backed up. It might be an hour, she warned. Keep eyes on her. Whatever you do, don't scare her off. An hour. Raoul set his phone on the dash, still recording. His breath fogged the glass as he leaned forward, watching her watch him. The rain drummed on the roof of the car, steady as a heartbeat. Neither of them moved. Neither of them blinked. It was a silent truce, one that wouldn't last. The rain had a way of muting the world, softening sounds, blurring edges, making even danger feel distant. But Raoul had lived long enough to know quiet wasn't always safe. Through the windshield, he kept his eyes on the mother dog. Her stance was rigid now, her head slightly lower, ears pinned halfway back. She wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking past him, toward the far corner of the lot. Raoul followed her gaze. At first, all he saw was the wavering outline of weeds bending under the rain. Then, just for a moment, something broke the pattern. A low shape, moving. It was quick there, then gone again, swallowed by the shadows between two half-collapsed sheds. But Raoul had caught enough of a glimpse to know it wasn't just another stray dog. This movement was different, smoother, predatory. The mother dog's lips twitched upward, bearing the faintest glint of teeth. Not a full snarl, but a warning. The puppies whimpered louder, squirming at her belly. She pressed them back with her hind legs, her eyes never leaving the darkness. Raoul reached for his phone, zooming in on the corner of the lot, and there it was again. Two faint points of light, reflecting the glow of a flickering street lamp. Eyes. Coyote. He'd seen them before, skirting the city limits, scavenging through trash on the edge of farmland. Normally, they stayed well away from people, but storms made them bold. Hunger made them bolder. The coyote's coat was slick and mottled, its ribs faint under wet fur. It moved low to the ground, weaving between debris, edging closer with the patience of a seasoned hunter. Raoul's pulse kicked. His first instinct was to get out, wave his arms, shout, but the rescue dispatcher's voice echoed in his head. Don't scare her off. If the mother bolted, the coyote would have an open path to the puppies. So he sat there, fingers tightening around the steering wheel, every muscle in his body urging him to move. The standoff stretched on, seconds dripping by like hours. The coyote inched forward. The mother dog inched forward too, her body lowering, her paws planted in the mud. The rain ran in rivulets down her face, clinging to her whiskers. Raoul could feel the tension in his own bones, the electric hum in the air before a strike. He gripped his phone tighter, knowing he was filming a moment no one would believe without proof. The coyote stopped 10 feet from the trailer, its eyes darting between the mother and the shadows beyond. Its body shifted, not a retreat. A test. The mother dog growled then, low and guttural, the kind of sound that rumbles from deep in the chest. It wasn't loud, but it carried, even through the storm. Raoul felt it more than heard it. The coyote froze. For a long moment, predator and protector faced each other across the rain-slick mud, neither breaking the line. Raoul didn't know who would move first. He just knew that when they did, the night would change. The rain shifted, not lighter, but sharper, stinging as it fell. Each drop hit the mud with a splatter, making small ripples in the shallow puddles scattered across the lot. Somewhere far above, thunder rolled, slow and deep, like the growl of a giant. Raoul's eyes darted between the mother dog and the coyote. Every nerve in his body stretched taut. He felt like he was watching two gunfighters, each waiting for the other to flinch. Lightning cracked open the sky, spilling white light across the scene for less than a second. The coyote moved. It wasn't a full charge, not yet, but sudden, calculated advance. Its paws slapped into the wet ground with purpose, closing the distance in 3 quick strides. Its head was low, shoulders high, teeth glinting in the stormlight. Raoul's breath caught. The mother dog didn't hesitate. She surged forward with a force that seemed impossible for her thin, weary frame. Her paws tore into the mud, sending clumps flying as she launched herself headlong into the coyote's path. The sound she made wasn't just a bark. It was a roar, raw and primal, ripping through the air in defiance. The coyote skidded, momentarily thrown off by her sudden ferocity, but momentum pushed it forward. They collided in a blur of fur, teeth, and splashing water. Raoul's door flew open as he leapt out into the rain, shouting without even realizing it. "Hey, get out." His voice was almost lost in the downpour, but the sudden movement from a human figure made the coyote falter. The mother didn't wait for it to retreat. She drove forward, snapping at its flank, forcing it to backpedal toward the far corner of the lot. The coyote's yelp cut through the night, high, sharp, pained, before it spun and bolted, disappearing into the curtain of rain. Silence, except for Raoul's pounding heart and the relentless hiss of the storm. The mother dog stood still for a moment, her sides heaving, water dripping from her ears. Then she turned back toward the trailer. Raoul could see a limp at her front paw now, a slight hitch that hadn't been there before. Still, she didn't collapse. She didn't lie down. She returned to her spot over her puppies, lowering herself into the mud and curling her body protectively around them. Her eyes flicked to Raoul, unreadable but steady. Raoul swallowed, his throat tight. "You're unbelievable," he whispered, though she couldn't understand the words. Somewhere in the distance, a faint sound rose above the rain. Not thunder, not wind, sirens, not police sirens, but the warbling, high-pitched tone of an animal rescue van. Raoul's chest eased just a little, but his eye stayed on her. She was shivering now, her breath coming fast, but she didn't take her gaze off the world beyond the trailer. Help was coming, but Raoul knew, until it arrived, she wasn't letting her guard down. Not for a second. The sirens grew louder, warbling in the distance, bouncing off the wet brick walls of the neighborhood. To Raoul, the sound meant relief. To the mother dog, it meant another unknown. She stiffened, ears swiveling toward the noise. Her head lifted, muscles tightening again, even as the rain plastered her fur to her skin. The puppies stirred at her belly, their tiny bodies squeaking, unaware that anything had changed. The rescue van's headlights sliced through the darkness, two bright beams sweeping across the lot. The vehicle slowed, tires crunching over gravel and broken glass, before rolling to a stop just outside the fence. The engine cut, leaving only the patter of rain, the faint ticking of cooling metal. Two rescuers stepped out. They moved with practiced caution, raincoats zipped tight, hoods up, hands visible. One was a tall man with broad shoulders, the other a smaller woman with a calm, steady voice. Raoul would later learn their names, Miguel and Maria, but in that moment, all that mattered was the way they approached. "Where is she?" Maria called softly over the rain. Raoul pointed under the trailer. "She's right there. For puppies. She fought off a coyote about 15 minutes ago." Maria's eyes softened, but she didn't break her focus. She scanned the shadows, looking for the glint of those amber eyes. And there they were, low to the ground, locked on the newcomers. "She's guarding hard," Raoul warned. "Hasn't moved more than a few feet since I got here." Maria nodded, stepping forward slowly, Miguel flanking her, keeping his distance. Every few steps, Maria crouched lower, making herself smaller, less threatening. She spoke in a low, even tone, not words the dog would understand, but a melody of reassurance. The mother dog didn't buy it, not yet. She lowered her head, baring her teeth in a silent, trembling warning. Her eyes flicked between Maria's hands and her own puppies. Raoul could feel the tension, thick and unyielding. If they pushed too fast, she'd bolt. If they hung back too long, the cold and her injury could take a toll. Miguel set a folded towel on the ground a few feet away, placing a small bowl of water and a container of shredded boiled chicken on top. He didn't push it closer, just left it there, a peace offering. The smell carried faintly through the damp air. The mother sniffed, her nostrils flaring, but she didn't move. Her paws remained planted, her body still a wall between the food and her pups. "She's not eating," Raoul murmured. Maria tilted her head. She's telling us the rules. And so they waited. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the patter of rain on the trailer roof and the faint whimpers of the puppies. The rescuers stayed still, letting the mother read them. Each time she glanced toward the food, Maria placed another piece of chicken on the towel, inching it just slightly closer, a breadcrumb trail of trust. It wasn't working yet, but Maria wasn't the kind to rush a moment like this. She's got an hour of fight left in her, Maria whispered to Raoul. If that's what it takes, we'll spend it here. The rain slowed to a mist, and the world seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere in the shadows, the coyote might still be watching. Somewhere behind them, the clock kept ticking, and in the center of it all, the mother dog stood, unbroken, unblinking. The rain had thinned to a fine mist now, clinging to the rescuers' raincoats and turning the ground into a soft, sucking mud. Streetlights reflected off the wet asphalt, giving the lot an almost silver glow. Maria stayed low, crouched like a hunter, but moving like a friend. Her hands were open, palms up, fingers loose. Every inch she closed was deliberate, one slow movement followed by a long pause. The mother dog never looked away from her. Her gaze was sharp enough to cut glass. Another piece of chicken hit the towel, the scent warm and heavy in the damp air. For the first time, the mother's front paw inched forward. Just one step. She stopped immediately, as if scolding herself for letting curiosity win. Maria smiled faintly but didn't speak. She knew this dance. If she broke the silence with words, the spell could shatter. The puppies stirred again, their tiny mouths searching for warmth and milk. The mother's ears twitched, her eyes softening as she glanced down at them. When she looked back up, Maria had shifted just enough to set the next piece of chicken even closer. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Raoul's legs were starting to cramp from crouching behind the van, but he didn't dare move. Even Miguel, usually the more forward of the two, stood utterly still, his breath slow, his gaze fixed on the scene unfolding. Finally, the mother dog made her move. She stepped forward, 1, 2, 3 careful strides, and stopped just within reach of the food. She didn't eat right away. She sniffed, glancing up at Maria between each breath, measuring her. Maria lowered one hand, palm still open, letting the rain pool in the curve of her fingers. Slowly, she extended it toward the dog, not forcing the space, just offering it. The mother's nose twitched. The scent of chicken mingled with the faint smell of human skin, soap, and rainwater. She hesitated, shifting her weight backward. Maria didn't follow. She stayed exactly where she was. And then, like a thread finally snapping, the mother stepped forward and pressed her nose into Maria's palm. The touch was light, testing, but it was there. Maria froze, letting the dog make the choice. She felt the coolness of her nose, the faint vibration of her breath. After a moment, Maria's other hand came up slowly, brushing against the wet fur of her cheek. No growl, no flinch, just a stillness that felt almost like surrender. Raoul exhaled, realizing he'd been holding his breath. Maria used a moment. In one smooth, calm motion, she slipped a soft slip lead over the dog's neck, not tugging, not tightening, just letting it rest there like a scarf. The mother didn't fight it. Instead, she turned back toward the trailer, as if to say, "They're coming too." Miguel crouched and began gently lifting each puppy into a padded carrier. They were so small his hands could hold 2 at a time. Their squeaks grew louder, but the mother didn't panic. She kept her eyes on Maria, trusting her to return them. When the last pup was inside, Maria gave a small nod. "All right, Mama," she whispered. "Let's go home." The mother stepped forward, the lead loose in Maria's hands. She didn't look back at the trailer. Her job here was done. The drive to the rescue center was quiet except for the steady hum of the van's engine and the occasional rustle from the crate where the puppy slept. Raoul followed in his own car, headlights trailing the van like a guardian of the guardian. Inside, Maria sat beside the carrier, one hand resting lightly against the wire door where the mother dog, now calm but still alert, kept her amber eyes on her babies. She didn't whine. She didn't bark. She simply watched, her breathing slow, as if she'd finally allowed herself to feel the exhaustion she'd been holding at bay. When they pulled into the rescue's garage, Warm air rushed to greet them. The contrast to the cold, wet night was almost overwhelming. The smell of disinfectant, fresh straw, and dog food filled the space. Miguel lifted the carrier out first, sitting it gently on the floor of a freshly prepared kennel lined with thick blankets. The puppies were transferred, and one by one, each let out onto the soft bedding. They tumbled and squeaked, their tiny tails twitching as they sought each other's warmth. Maria unclipped the lead from the mother's neck, but didn't step back right away. She opened the kennel door, crouching low to give her space. The mother stepped inside without hesitation, going straight to her pups. She lowered herself to the blanket, curling her body around them in the same protective arc Raul had first seen in the lot. Only now, the shiver in her limbs came not from cold, but from release. Raul stood just outside the kennel, watching. "She's incredible," he said quietly, almost to himself. Maria smiled. "She's a fighter and a mother. Those two things together, they'll move mountains." The veterinarian on duty, a kind-eyed woman named Dr. Singh, came over to examine the family. She noted the bite mark on the mother's front paw, shallow, clean enough to treat easily, and her low weight. "She hasn't eaten for herself in days," Dr. Singh said. "Every ounce of her has gone to keeping them alive." When fresh water and food were placed inside the kennel, the mother hesitated for only a moment before eating. Between bites, she looked up at Maria, not in fear, but in acknowledgement. That night, as the center settled into its quiet hours, Raul sat in a chair just outside the kennel. He hadn't planned to stay, but he couldn't bring himself to leave yet. From his seat, he watched the puppies snuggle closer into their mother's side, each tiny chest rising and falling in perfect rhythm with hers. For the first time since the rain began that night, the mother closed her eyes. Her breathing deepened. The muscles along her shoulders finally softened. Raul leaned forward, resting his arms on his knees. "You did it," he whispered. "You kept them safe." In the weeks that followed, the staff named her Sombra, meaning shadow in Spanish, for the way she had been almost invisible in that lot, standing between her puppies and danger without asking for help or recognition. Sombra's puppies grew quickly, their bellies round, their legs sturdy. One by one, they would find homes of their own, and when Sombra herself was finally adopted, it was into a family who understood that she was not just a survivor, she was a hero. Some rescues are about pulling animals out of danger. This one was about honoring the courage it took for her to stand her ground until help arrived. If Sombra's courage touched your heart tonight, imagine how many other invisible guardians are out there, standing watch in the cold, the rain, the dark, protecting those who can't protect themselves. Some are found in time, others are not. You can be part of the difference. Share her story. Adopt if you can. Support rescues if you can't. And if you believe animal heroes deserve to have their bravery seen and remembered, click subscribe. Because here, every week, we tell the stories that prove love knows no species. Let's make sure their bravery is never invisible again.